Hi, my name is Talia. Welcome to Talia Nerds Out. This is my last of 3 videos that I have recorded tonight. So I'm a little dry. As of recording this, I have a book on mouse that needs to be edited and will hopefully be out to y'all soon, because today is January the 3rd, headed into the 4th, in not long. And then after that, I need to edit and put out to you guys another historically crafting video. And then I have my first Historathon 2024 video, which will go out to you after that. But because of the fact that it takes me a while to edit, it might be a while before you see this video. This video is going to focus entirely on fiction. So very different from the past few videos that I've recorded, because a lot of what I read is nonfiction. It requires less emotional energy when I'm fatigued. I don't have to worry about getting emotionally involved, which can be tiring, and I had to focus more. So I do tend to read a lot more nonfiction as long as I can focus to read. And I think my numbers were like 56-58% nonfiction last year, according to Storygraph. It would have been more than that if it hadn't been for Christy's missing the December readathon. Christy's missing readathon, and that was from like December 1st through December 14th, I think it was. And it might have been December 3rd through December 14th. Anyway, I just read only Agatha Christie during that period of time, and that highly affected my numbers for last year and made it so I wasn't like 60-something% nonfiction last year. But I'm probably going to read a little bit more fiction this year. We'll see. One of the things I want to do is, my grandparents filled out my collection of the Harry Kemmelman books. Actually, they created my collection of Harry Kemmelman books. The first one, I want to say I borrowed it, and that was Friday the Rabbi Slept Late. It's a very short mystery novel. This is the first of the series, and it was originally thought up as, well, first, the author is, I don't know if he's actually a rabbi or just an Orthodox Jew who wanted to write about a rabbi. Regardless, he wanted to write something about Jewish Orthodoxy, but he didn't really feel like writing just a straight book. I guess he enjoyed mystery books, and so he made his main character an Orthodox Jewish rabbi, and he just integrated that aspect of the rabbi's life into the story. It doesn't feel like you're being smacked over the head with it, but it's definitely part of the story, at least for the first one, the Friday the Rabbi Slept Late. And I think I talked about this a little bit last time in my book haul. So this is one I already read. I'd like to go on to the second one, and this will be the first other one that I haven't read, because the rest of the series I have not read. So this is Saturday the Rabbi Went Hungry. So I'd like to start this. I think I could probably finish this really quickly. I could probably finish in one sitting. It's not very long. It shouldn't be a hard read. Now the text is small, but I think if I had just a good period of time to sit by myself and I wasn't trying to catch up on my book journaling, I could get this done, because I am way behind in my book journaling. But that's okay. So yeah, I want to go ahead and do that. So that's my non-sci-fi fantasy stuff that I want to read. Now let's go into the rest of it, which is very heavy sci-fi fantasy. Now, what I did not bring with me, because it was too heavy and my hand was complaining about it, I did not bring with me my Shannara big omnibus. I do want to go back into reading that, but I think I might want to finish Silmarillion first. Oh no, I did bring Shannara with me. Haha! I guess I decided to just deal. Okay, so this, let me do it with my other hand. This is the Shannara, Sword of Shannara trilogy. And I am currently partway through the first book, which is the Sword of Shannara. I'm still fairly early on. I want to get to the end of Sword of Shannara so I can show you how far. Good heavens, I forgot how long this book. Oh, there we go. I should have just gone to the bookmark, the other bookmark. So, this is the first book. So, as you can see, here's my marker here. I'm not even, I think I'm probably, I want to say I'm about a fourth, maybe a third of the way through the first book. The second book in this trilogy is my favorite. It's the Elfstones of Shannara. And then it ends with, which I almost like almost as much, is the Wish Song of Shannara. Now, he does have another trilogy, which I don't like quite as much, but I do like it. It is quite a bit after this trilogy, and that actually might be 4 books. My quadrilogy? I don't know how you call it. Quartet? I don't know. And that series is quite a bit after this one. Generations upon generations after this one. And I can't remember the name of that particular one of his. But this is probably my favorite of his series, which is the original Sword of Shannara trilogy. So, making my way slowly through it, mostly because I've been focusing on different books. Now, Silmarillion, honestly, the only thing that's been taking me so long with this is I am finally at Beren and Luthien. And I don't want to read this when I can't focus, because I have been waiting to get to Beren and Luthien for so long. I've been so excited about getting to this point. So I want to be able to thoroughly enjoy this part. So when I feel like I can focus on Beren and Luthien, I will get back into reading this. And yes, I know I have the book that's solely focused on Beren and Luthien. It's got the lays of Beren and Luthien. It's got all of Tolkien's different workings of Beren and Luthien. That doesn't matter. I want to wait until I feel like I can focus to do the Silmarillion's version of Beren and Luthien. And once I do that, I could go and just read it here or there, you know. Now, the main part of my video. So, I go from talking about what might be considered more serious fiction with Tolkien and even Shannara. Even my mystery series, Kemmelman series. Now I'm going to head into what most people might not consider terribly serious fiction, which is Star Wars. I have already made my views known multiple times about Star Wars and the extended universe, also known as the EU. And part of what brought this conversation to mind again for me is I watched a recent video of, just going to bring up her name so I get it right, so I remember to tag her later too. This Bookstalgic. She has a channel, she's been around since late 2022, and she was talking about the Star Wars book that she was reading, and we were having a conversation about the Star Wars universe and the the middle finger that Disney has flicked at all longtime Star Wars fans who enjoyed the EU as it was built up over decades. I grew up reading the books in the Star Wars extended universe. My mom read them as they were coming out. So, yes. And I've mentioned many times before how annoyed I am that Disney has slapped the Legends label on the Extended Universe books because they don't want to they want to basically be able to do their own thing and to ignore years worth of character development, world building, all that. Like I said, flip a middle finger at longtime Star Wars fans. But one of the things that I was discussing with I want to make sure I say her name right again, Bookstalgic, was I was explaining how a lot of the books that came out had the official timeline printed in them. Now, it does appear, even though most of the ones I remember reading when I was younger had these timelines, it appears like the smaller paperbacks didn't always have that. I wonder if it was dependent on who the publisher was who put out that particular paperback. Because like this one, now I haven't actually read this one. This one was released in 1992, I believe. This is a Del Rey publication. Oh, I'm sorry. This is a compilation of 3 novels. The compilation was released in 1992 or somewhere around there. The first book, Lando Calrissian and the Star Cave of Tomboka, was released in 1983. So that tells you how long this extended universe has been around. And this was put out by Lucasfilm. So this is official Star Wars stuff. This was put out by Lucasfilm. Lando Calrissian and the Mind Harp of Sharu, 1983, and Lando Calrissian and the Flame Wind of Ossian, 1983. So I have not read any of the Lando Calrissian prequels. I don't know how I missed this. Didn't even know they existed. And it kind of works in tandem with the Han Solo collection, which came out in a compilation the year after the Lando Calrissian. Now, I'm not sure when, because I seem to remember Han Solo at Star's End, Han Solo's Revenge. I don't remember Han Solo and Lost Legacy. I don't even know that I read all these. I just remember seeing them in my mom's collection. And let's see if it tells me when each individual book was released. Now, in these compilation ones, it doesn't have the timeline that I remember seeing in most of the books that I read. But is it going to be nice enough to give me when each of the books were? Oh, yes. Okay, so, this did come out before the Lando one. So Han Solo at Star's End came out in 1979. Back when it was still called the Star Wars Corporation. Then Han Solo's Revenge, also 1979, and that was put out by Lucasfilm. And then Han Solo and Lost Legacy, 1980, Lucasfilm Ltd. So, late 70s was when the Star Wars EU was already starting its official books. Now, I know there's one that I don't think is considered in the canon because it doesn't really have the same feel as a lot of the other books, and they don't reference back to it in any other books as being a part of the canon. And that's, I want to say it's like a splinter in the mind's eye or something like that. It's supposed to happen in the middle of, I actually think it's right after New Hope. And you could tell they're still working out the characters. I don't think it was written by George Lucas, but it was very much in the period of time where the movies were still being made. And you kind of get the feeling like they hadn't quite made up what they were doing yet with Luke and Leia. The characters were very roughly drawn still. So it doesn't have the same feel as the rest of the Star Wars EU. And I want to say it's a splinter in the mind's eye, but I'm not completely sure. Because I've only read it once because it's not my favorite one. Now, before I go on to showing the other ones that I wanted to show what I mean by the timeline. Because for some reason not all of my books have it, even though I remember a lot of the books that I grew up with having it. Now, funny enough, Disney, who does not accept the EU, has the official timeline in the back. The one that's I remember for many years, even before the prequels came out. It's in the back. Oh, it's not this one. It's in the back. It is this one here. There we go. Now, they call it the Star Wars Legends novels timeline now because they're trying to label these as legends. But this is a timeline that existed before Disney ever purchased Star Wars. Actually, let's see if they have here Splintered in Mind's Eye. I would be shocked if they do. Yeah, there's a Han Solo trilogy, Lando Calrissian, Shadow Games. Yeah, I didn't think that there was... Oh, no! Splintered in Mind's Eye. Maybe I'm thinking of a different title, because I'm shocked to find a Splinter in Mind's Eye here. That surprises me. Okay. But yeah. Official timeline, I've actually written all over it. Because I like figuring out approximately where the characters are in their lifespan in it. But yeah, so this is one of the Disney released ones. All my other ones are used ones. So that way I can have the old covers and stuff. And this is one I'm currently reading, actually. No, I'm not. Sorry. This is one I just finished. This is one I'm currently reading. And I've got my Mara Jade bookmark. My bookmark that my mom gave me. Just cuz. I'm kind of surprised this one doesn't have it in it, considering the fact that the first one did in this Disney re-release. This trilogy came out... Well, this is the third one in the trilogy, but... When did Timothy Zahn put this one out? Okay, so... This one here was in 1992. Heir to the Empire, which is the first one in the Thrawn trilogy. And this is, a lot of times when people would say what the sequels should have been, like if they're going to do a trilogy follow up the original trilogy, a lot of people are like, why didn't they just do the Thrawn trilogy? And they're coming out with Thrawn way too late right now in Ahsoka. And they're taking that storyline away from Luke, which this is Luke's story. Okay, so the first one is 1991. Let me put this back over here. But what I wanted to show with some of the other ones is... Okay, so this is Choices of One. This is a prequel one. I want to say this came out in early 2000s. Oh, not even early. This came out 2011, Lucasfilm. And this is before it was Legends. And it has Star Wars novel timeline. So, Lucas approved timeline. Actually, I want to check now, see if this version has a Splinter in Mind's Eye as a part of the official timeline, because I was kind of surprised to find that there. Okay, Splinter in Mind's Eye. Okay. I always felt like that one felt off in comparison to the other ones, but Lucas, this is the official timeline, I would know. But yeah, then next comes, I have the Black Fleet Crisis. I haven't actually, if I read this, it's been so long that I don't remember it. So I've got that trilogy here that I want to read now. And that one comes, let's see, I think I had to wait. I have Jedi Academy trilogy coming in. So when that comes in, I'll go ahead and do that one next, because that comes before the Black Fleet Crisis. So I'll finish with the Thrawn trilogy, go on to Jedi Academy trilogy, then this one here, which is the Black Fleet Crisis. Mara Jade will be dipping out for a while, which is a shame because I do like her character. But she comes up again a little bit in one of my other favorite trilogies. Ouch. The Corellian trilogy. And that's when Han and Leia's twins. How old are they in this? I want to say they're like 6 or 7. Maybe 8. And Anakin, the youngest one, is a year and a half younger than twins. So that one I look forward to. Let me see if I can put this up with the hand that's not hurting. There we go. This one was a prequel. I read this earlier last year. This one, again, it has the timeline. This is the 20th anniversary. So this would have been, okay, so 20 years after 1991. That would have been 2011, if I'm mathing right. And the good old EU timeline. And what's cool about this, and I talked about it before, is it has Timothy Zahn talking about the writing process and what he was thinking about when he was writing each section, and about him talking to Lucas when he was developing it, how he looked at the timelines when he was putting together his book. And you can actually see these books building on top of each other from the books that came prior to the timeline. Yes, it's with varying levels of competency. Like, I wouldn't put The Courtship of Princess Leia anywhere near a Timothy Zahn book. And I can't remember who wrote The Courtship of Princess Leia. But these books all build upon each other. The characters that Timothy Zahn created, that gave a shine, that changed the complete lighting in this room. Okay. The characters and the world building that Timothy Zahn did in his book influenced the EU in many ways in the years to follow. So he had a huge effect on the way that this universe developed. You got characters like Mara Jade, you got the Solo kids, Talon Card, you got Grand Admiral Thrawn. You got so many amazing characters and world building incidents, so many character development that really gave other authors a jumping off point for their books. Of course, like I said, varying degrees of success. I don't know how something like the Jedi Academy trilogy or the Black Fleet Crisis holds up. I don't think I've read either of those trilogies for whatever reason. Or if I did, I don't remember them very well. I must have read at least parts of those trilogies. I tended to reread certain ones. Like, I reread the Corellian one multiple times, which is why I remember that for sure. I must have read, because I have storylines I remember that I'm not sure where they fit in. And there's also standalone ones that I have read, but I don't remember the titles for. But let me put these on top of here. I partially picked these up because my mom was interested when she'd forgotten that the Han Solo ones existed, and she never had known about the Lando ones. So I was like, well, do you want them for your birthday, which is her birthday at the end of the month, or do you want me to pick them up and then to read them, and borrow mine and read them? And she said that she wanted me to pick them up and that she would borrow them and read them, which is a funny reversal because as a kid I would read hers and she doesn't have hers anymore, so now she's gonna read mine. What else? Is that all of the Star Wars ones? Yeah, because the continuation of the Thrawn books, or not the Thrawn books, of the Zahn Star Wars books. Actually, I need to pull up the timeline so I know where I'm going. So after I finish the current Thrawn trilogy, I want to go on and to read. I don't think I'm going to read necessarily the X-Wing books. They're kind of scattered throughout. And I know I have X-Wing Izar's Revenge on Kindle, but I haven't read the rest of the Rogue Squadron X-Wing books. And I think I'll wait till I can start from the top. Or I've read it and I know I read Rogue Squadron. I don't remember if I finished Rogue Squadron, the first book. And they're focused more on Wedge Antilles, who, if you watch the original trilogy of Star Wars, he was one of the only 2 people of that last few those last 3 X-Wing fighters that survived Death Star. Luke's friend Biggs gets shot out of the sky, and then Wedge gets his X-Wing gets damaged, and Luke tells him to take off. There's no point in him just dying. He can't do anything. I think his guns were taken out, and he was just really damaged. So Wedge was there for the destruction of both Death Stars, and he got his was a character who grew quite a bit in the extended universe. But I haven't read all of his X-Wing books, so I won't read Isar's Revenge next. So after the Thrawn trilogy, I'll do the Jedi Academy trilogy, which is coming in. Then I will probably go on to Black Fleet Crisis trilogy, and then the Corellian trilogy, before I go the Hand of Thrawn duology, and the other ones that Zahn wrote that are focused on Luke and Mara, including the one comic book. But yeah, that is my heavily nerdy Star Wars section. I highly recommend, if you enjoyed the original trilogy, and if you want to experience Star Wars the way that most Star Wars fans who are really into it did prior to Disney purchasing Lucasfilms, prior to Disney taking the IP and doing what it wanted to with it. This was Star Wars. And if you want to experience Star Wars, what it was for decades, and what a lot of fans fell in love with, if you want to see why a lot of fans are so irritated at what's happened to the characters, how they've been treated, the original characters, about the characters that we'll never get to see now, because they've been deemed to be merely legends now. Or if it's convenient for Disney to pull them out like Thrawn, they do them poorly. So these are the characters that I fell in love with growing up. I loved watching Luke Skywalker go from where in the first movie, and you all saw this in the first movie, his hero's journey, because Lucas was very much focused on that hero's journey of Luke going from, the kind of whiny, very young for his age, I think, farm boy on a back world like Tatooine, to being a Jedi, to, as you see him through the books, you see him settle into that role, but you also see different aspects of his personality develop. You see where, okay, Luke, you can definitely see where he has this savior complex, and how that affects him and his relationship with the Force, and how the dark side is able to tempt him in particular. You see how Han develops as a character in a way that you didn't get that same payoff when you don't follow the EU. Han develops amazingly as a character, even beyond what you see in the movies in the EU. And then Leia, you see where she's kind of like, she's similar to Luke in the fact that she feels like she will do whatever that she needs to do. She is kind of idealist, but she's very practical in the way she deals with it. She's definitely a politician. Because that's what her training is. It's very interesting to see how their characters, even just your 3 main characters, how their characters develop and grow over time. And it feels very natural in the context of the universe that's built around them in the EU. So if you really enjoyed those characters in the original trilogy, I do recommend checking out the EU, and not just for the sour grapes that I have for Disney and the way they've handled it, just for the sheer enjoyment of these characters. And yeah, so that is my very strong opinions on the Star Wars EU. I am taking my time because I love Zahn's writing. Mara, who is one of his creations, is one of my absolute favorite characters that entered the EU. And if you want to know who she is, I would definitely recommend, if you want to start off in the EU and you want to start off strong, start with the Thrawn trilogy, which it starts with Heir to the Empire. And this starts off 5 years after the Battle of Endor. So the Empire has fallen. The New Republic is now basically the main power in the galaxy. You still have little pockets of the Empire trying to claw back their power, but they aren't unified because they don't have the Emperor. And Thrawn steps into that vacuum and starts challenging what the New Republic has worked so hard to build. And what's interesting is you get to see, because sometimes with rebellion stories, you'll see the rebellion happen and you'll see the victory. But what happens after? And here you do see the what happens after. You see the fact that, we've settled, we've gotten past the initial, okay, we won, this is great. Okay, well, now you have these factions even within your fledgling government. So you have the political infighting. You have, the different personalities that were able to work together a lot smoother when they had this very large common enemy. Now that you're at peace, how do you make peacetime work? And that's part of the premise that the Thrawn trilogy deals with, while bringing in the fact that this is a very vulnerable period of time, this 5 years after this big victory. So it's a very interesting point in this extended universe. If I was to suggest any point for someone to start off, and they just want to start with the strongest part of the Star Wars universe, which is Timothy Zahn's books, and he does have several spread out, even as far as, decades after this point for the characters. But this is a good point within the universe to start because of the timeline, because of it being at that very pivotal 5-year point where they're starting to settle in and figure out government stuff. But also with the bringing in of a very interesting villain and introducing some very pivotal characters that'll be a big part of the universe in the future. So, yes, if you want to start off with the EU, start with the Thrawn trilogy, first book, Heir to the Empire. Okay, thank you for listening to my mostly Star Wars rambling. Yeah, and thank you to, let me just bring her name up again, Bookstalgic. I'm actually not sure about her first name, but she does have a channel. Like I said, she started in 2022, late 2022. And yes, thank you very much for getting me into thinking about doing a little bit more of a Star Wars focused video. I did already have Star Wars books that I wanted to show, but this was a nice little kick in the pants because I wanted to show the timelines that I had in my old Lucasfilms and Lucas Press, I think it says, Lucas Books, that's what it says in the back of this one. Books that I have that are published. I wanted to show those timelines that I was talking about. But yeah, anyway, my mouth is getting dry. This video is running long. This is going to be the more rambly of my videos. Will there be, a lot of times I'll try to edit when there's a lot of rambling. I already knew this was going to be rambly. This one will probably be very low editing because I this is an unabashed ramble video. Because it is just an unabashed, complete nerd out. So, if you lasted to the end of this video, thank you. I hope that you have a very blessed night, day, whatever it is. If you jump into the Star Wars EU, I hope that you enjoy it as much as I do. And if you already love the EU, sound out in the comments. If you're interested in the EU, sound out in the comments. Absolutely, if you are a Disney Star Wars fan, if you want to sound out in the comments, that's fine. Absolutely. You are entitled to your wrong opinion. But we will have to agree to disagree. Anyway, so yes, thank you very much for joining me. I will see you next time. God bless. Bye.